And now, it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson, thank you for making us a part of your Wednesday. Hi, Ben.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
You know what? I'm quite good. Coming into the office today and running into Maddie and Coach Tim Lacombe.
Yeah.
Two great people.
Yeah, two of our favorite faces. Not to mention Christian and Hatch and everyone we like. PK.
Oh, I'm not talking about any of those guys. I'm talking about
but
Maddie.
we certainly don't see Coach every day.
No, we don't.
I talk to Maddie every day, but I don't see her in office every day.
And if you don't know, Maddie is Ben's boss at
on the digital side,
KSLSports.com, and Tim is Tim.
Yeah.
I've told you. We talked about it yesterday. It's so weird to go from I spend a lot of time with Tim, a lot of time with Coach Lacombe, to go from that to I hardly see him is weird. But
yeah.
It is good. It is good when you bump into him. Tim, one of the best. If you didn't hear Tim with PK this morning, check it out via podcast. It's worth a listen. We won't dwell on this. There's lots to get to. But hearing Tim talk about the difference at BYU now compared to what it was Tim was coaching not that long ago. Mm-hmm. We're talking 4 or 5 years ago. And to hear how, different in, you can have a 5 o'clock shadow now.
Yeah.
They didn't really legislate any change, but it's not so uptight. And with the NIL, they're really playing that to their advantage. Whereas, BYU was Tim was instructed not to cheat. We don't do that here.
And now they're just nothing but it's just cheating up and down.
No.
Oh.
I'm talking about. Sorry, I didn't mean to imply that. They can do it above board, so they're doing it. They could have always paid their basketball players $1 zillion.
Oh, I bet you they have had to tell people no aggressively.
Yes,
saying I get it. You're a supporter of the school. I get it. You're a millionaire. I get it. You like the idea of expanding the footprint of the church and the school itself. We're not going to do it that way.
We don't do that here.
Yeah.
It would be a bad look for the school and the church and all things. And you know what?
Sure, they've said no.
We don't do that here.
Yeah,
no, their problem was exactly, we've talked about this before, the opposite. The mouth breather that wants to send Nick Emery to Legoland.
Right.
Where they're I'm sure, in fact, I know, stop.
Yeah, please stop.
Stop.
Yeah.
And now they can flex that muscle. And it's just a totally different thing. Recruiting at BYU without NIL was, I'm going to evaluate $1 zillion guys and maybe I get one who's willing to come to BYU you're getting the best prospect in the country.
Hans and Scotty had a guest on yesterday to talk about Trey Johnson, the basketball player from Texas. Uh-huh. And the guest said something along the lines of I don't know if Texas is going to get to BYU levels of support. What? What? Texas can't or isn't going to as far as some of their investments in these players to get, the number one overall player in the country?
It's a lot of dough.
It is. It's a very funny. We can play the sound here in a minute. We've talked about Provo being a bubble.
Uh-huh.
It's a legit bubble. There's a cultural sense of what that means in the state of Utah. But the fact that Provo, Utah is this small little cash cow for some wealthy people supporting BYU has turned it into this weird hotspot.
Well, see, that's the advantage to BYU, though. It's not just Provo, Utah. It's Salt Lake City. It's Las Vegas.
There are.
It's
I'm
Southern
sure they
California.
have donors all over the country.
It's Burley, Idaho.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not just alum either. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right.
It's an advantage that appeared for BYU out of nowhere. All of a sudden, they went from we can't recruit anybody to we can recruit anybody.
Yep. Yeah.
And you know what? You'll go live the honor code. If you're getting paid $5-6 million, Ben, I'll go live the honor code right now for that kind of dough.
Yeah, right. whatever AJ DeBonsa's making
Yeah.
for 6 months?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put
Sure.
a suit on. You saw I went to church over the weekend?
I did.
Yeah, fine. Great.
But if there's not a financial incentive, if you asked him if he wanted to go to a religious institution
Yeah.
and a religion that he's not a member of, and live a pretty strict, kind of wild standard for a college student, and your compensation is a really good education, he's going somewhere else.
Of course.
And that's not a bad thing, by the way. It's not. But now you can get anybody. You know how if you asked him how much he'd rather recruit at BYU now than then. I mean, you're kidding. Tim was like and I mean this as a joke, but Tim was like a missionary in Rome. I mean, like
Right.
doors slamming in his face left and right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now it's like, well, hey,
I can make an appointment for you
get
to
in
come
that
see
door.
us.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
That's why it's wild. It's crazy. And it coincided with the move to the Big 12, and it's just been certainly the secret sauce for a resurgence in BYU athletics. Not that it went anywhere, but I mean, we're certainly seeing new levels, that's for sure.
They had been a sleeping giant for most of my time in this business, which started around 2010, 2011, which certainly coincided with Utah moving to the Pac-12. And you just kind of felt like BYU was, the engine was on, but it was idling. It wasn't, it never fully got shut down. You could always tell that Bronco had juice, and the basketball program always had juice, and there were still the remnants of Jimmer Fredette, and then the LP3. Like it was always there. You could always kind of sense like they're going to get a weird 5-star recruit. They're going to get a weird 4-star recruit that like they wouldn't usually get. And if those restrictions come off, that thing's going to fly.
Well, yeah,
they got the restrictions off.
They were in the desert.
Yeah.
They were in the desert of the WCC and independence in football. Like Moses long ago, they were in the desert. And now you change the rules and move them into a legit league. Yeah, look out. We shouldn't, and I was surprised by the surge in basketball under Mark Pope, and then obviously continued with Kevin Young. That legit surprised me. It probably shouldn't have.
Well, it should have, because even what Kevin Young is dealing with is worlds apart from what Mark Pope walked into.
It feels that way, yeah.
Like, what did they pay Ali Khalifa to transfer here? Like $80,000? You know what I mean? Like he was fine. He was an okay player. He's not making $4 million.
Yeah, but that wasn't because BYU didn't have the money. That's because that was the market adjusting.
Exactly right. But yes, exactly.
And the market is still adjusting. I mean, the price tag on some of these guys is
stupid.
Is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, it's truly stupid.
I wonder if that continues to go up, certainly at the rate that it's going up now. But the issue wasn't that BYU had trouble raising the money. It's just that's what it cost.
Right. And nobody would have spent $4 million 3 years ago when Mark Pope was running the ship.
Yeah, right.
And now...
a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, I heard the budget at BYU was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $9 million. They obviously threw that in the garbage.
Yeah.
So... I don't know, it's crazy. They got plenty of money. And honestly, it's going to be a disadvantage for Utah.
Oh, it's going to be a disadvantage. It's going to be a disadvantage for everybody.
Yeah, right.
If you aren't one of those schools and they don't regulate it to put a cap on how much you can spend, it's a setback for every other team. And it will slay some giants.
Yeah. And by the way, the legislation or whatever that's coming, I guess it's not legislation, but they're going to try and, if you read that Trib article about Utah, that they're kind of betting on the revenue sharing thing coming down the pipe. That isn't going to change this. What we're talking, NIL is out of the bag. The boosters are involved, and you can have revenue sharing in the athletic department. If that even becomes a thing, it's not going to replace what's going on now. That cat's out of the bag.
Everybody in this country has become a bit of an expert on inflation over the last 8 years, certainly since COVID. But what happens when you put a bunch of money into the market? Everything gets more expensive. It doesn't stay the same price.
Yeah.
But if you mail every school a $20 million check, let's just say the P5 schools, a $20 million check, well, the $9 million you just mentioned for BYU that their operating costs were or whatever doesn't move into that $20 million. It gets added on top of the $20 million.
Yeah.
So now it's $29 million.
Yeah.
And now there's 15 players saying, no, you don't have $9 million, you have $29 million. Or no, you don't have
Yeah.
$20 million, you have $29 million. I'm doing the math. That's $1.8 million each. When in the past it was $500,000 each. I mean, that's never going to stop. You're right. Unless they cap it, which I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to be able to.
Well, how would you cap this? This
Right.
is not BYU's money. And I know it goes into these collectives, which is controlled by the university. But think about conceptually. It's not for them to decide if the car dealer gives the
Exactly right.
football player $100,000. That you eliminated that part of amateurism
Yes.
in this delicate dance of pro v amateur.
Yes.
As they slowly killed amateur. You killed that part of it. So the car dealer can always give the player whatever. Like, that's not going away. And it will always be loosely coordinated with the coaching staff because it's always been that way.
Right.
Think, hey, I'm going to write down this address for you, recruit, and you're going to go see Ben Anderson, who lives half a mile away, and he's going to have a McDonald's bag for you.
Right.
And you're going to enjoy your delicious Big Mac.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, right?
Right.
That now is legal. It's not going to be illegal going forward, regardless of the revenue sharing. And it's a huge advantage for BYU. Huge.
Why hasn't this infiltrated pro sports?
What do you mean?
Why doesn't Ryan Smith, and I'm just throwing a name out there, whoever, Mark Cuban, whatever, when he was owning the Mavericks. And it has happened a little bit, and I'll give you the example in a second. But why doesn't ex-NBA owner say, come sign with us, and by the way, we have a unique sponsorship deal in Utah that's going to pay you an extra $40 million a year?
So Larry Miller tried this and succeeded somewhat. But that's against the rules. It's against collective bargaining that you can't do that. But Larry Miller hooking John and Carl up with car dealerships was an end around to that rule, and I don't know exactly what he figured out, but he found some loophole to do just what you're talking about.
Why did LeBron go to the Lakers?
But well, because he wanted to build his stupid production company.
Exactly right. And then who bought it?
Nike.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
and Nike wasn't going to have that same value if it was in Cleveland. Right. Like, there was all.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
But I hear what you're saying.
I mean, maybe it would have. Maybe it didn't matter. But Nike was going to pay LeBron.
Toronto
whatever.
tried to give Kawhi Leonard a condo, and that leaked through like Kawhi's brother or something like that. But they wanted to give him a condo in like the nicest building in Toronto or
And
whatever.
they said no.
And Kawhi left it on the table and went to the Clippers.
Right.
But that leaked out that Toronto did that, and that's a big no-no. So it's collectively bargained. That's why.
So I guess the question would be, could you ever collectively bargain in college? And I honestly, truly don't know if that's even legal to do.
The answer to that is no, and not from a legal standpoint. But do you know how hard it is for the NFL to whip its players' union?
Correct.
And we're talking just about, what, like 1,000 guys? Not
And
even
conceptually, in the NFL, the 30 owners are working for the same thing. That's not true in college sports, right? The college presidents, the athletic directors, the biggest donors, they don't want everyone at the table. So why would Alabama want to collectively bargain with Utah or Utah State or BYU for that matter?
Yeah. But so think about this though. How the salary or how the salaries in the NBA particularly work is it's all about the percentage of the pie, right? Of basketball related income, BRI. So if 100% of the BRI, and we're talking about ticket sales, TV money. Jerseys are a little different because jersey sales actually go to the NBA and then are distributed to the teams, which is a little bit weird. But technically it would fall under that.
It's basketball related income.
Basketball related, even like I believe profits from like concessions from the games, like all that is calculated into the pie. It's pretty interesting. They get audited every single year and it takes about a month. It's a really it's a really serious thing. So they got to account for every nickel because that determines what the salary structure is, what the max contract is. We get caught up into say, oh, it's $60 million. It's actually not. It's actually I don't even know what it is. Isn't it like 31% of the cap?
Right.
That's what the contract is actually for. You could never do that. How would you do that in college? Especially with NIL, what we're talking about. I mean, you could kind of do that, I guess, with athletic budgets. But have you ever looked at an athletic budget? The money's coming from all over the place, including the state.
Right. You would to have any chance of doing this, you would have to break off football as a separate league and basketball as a separate league. And then you'd have to do it by individual conferences. Maybe you could do it with 64 teams or 48 teams, whatever that line that they're going to draw at some point.
Well, at this point, now we're not even talking about college football anymore.
But exactly right. Yeah. It's just a pro league.
It's just a pro league.
Yeah.
That maybe has the IP of
maybe you play on campus.
I mean, so it's like a fake loosely associated. I mean,
but even
it's
then,
where it's where Witt predicts we're headed.
Yes, and then I say you play on campus now, but until you have to build your next stadium, and then they just figure out what's best for them.
So even if you figure out some formula for sports-related income and you collective bargain, what's still to stop you from taking $100,000 from the car dealer?
Right.
Unless you have to sign a contract that says you're not going to do any of that.
Yeah. But then it would have to be worth your while.
Yeah, so there's a lot that has to happen for any of this to bring us out of the Wild West. You want to know why this doesn't happen in pro sports? Because it's regulated is ultimately the point. In college sports, there's no rules anymore.
And by
the
way, these unions have been around for decades.
Right.
You know what I mean? The unions have gotten stronger, and the relationship between the unions and the owners have gotten stronger just because it's been there forever.
Well, and not to mention that in baseball particularly, it took them, 100 years to form a union? To actually be able to form. Yeah, I'd have to look. I would think it came in right around like the 70s, maybe late 60s. And baseball has been around certainly since the 1870s.
66. So, about 100 years.
100 years to form a union? You know, it's like the arrogance of what Northwestern did, and of course, a university like Northwestern, where they're like, we're unionizing. It's like, oh, have you thought that through? You know how you're going to do that exactly?
The NBA Players Union started in 1954 because Bob Cousy wanted to organize the Players Union. But think of what the NBA was in 1954. First of all, the league was 15 years old. Was it even that? You know what I mean? We just hit 75 a couple of years ago.
Yeah, old Carl Naismith
invented the game. 7 years old, 6 years old at that point. There was 12 teams. And all the guys had other jobs, too, that they were in unions. The other guys were already at union meetings and just thought, we'll just start one for the basketball thing we do also. So, to try and do it, it would be very difficult to build the NBA Players Union from scratch today.
Yes.
If not impossible.
Right.
But because it's been here for 71 years, it's a little easier to get around.
And they've gained and lost power over those years. Right. And they've had wins and they've had losses. Right. I would say the last lockout was a big loss for the players, actually. But the TV money got so big that nobody noticed, which is really great for Derek Fisher, who definitely sold out his union.
Right. Everyone was fat and happy. Yeah.
So it's really interesting how this stuff works. But is college sports headed? I mean, I don't know how any of this happens. And they don't have any sort of leadership in the NCAA because it's been completely defanged. So what, we're going to wait for Congress to do something? That's not going to happen.
I mean, the president's talked about assigning a president of college sports and committee, and Nick Saban was going to be involved. And even Nick, I think, took a look at it, was like, that's not possible.
Can he executive order his way out of Title IX? Nope.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, the answer of what's going to happen is a whole lot of really nothing. I would predict, at least for the short term.
Yeah, if you think the Wild West is going to calm down, it's probably the opposite.
It's not. And back to the purpose of this conversation and the I'm not even going to use that word. The beginning of this conversation, it's a huge advantage for BYU.
Yeah.
Kook fans should be like, keep the Wild West. Call Mike Lee, get him on the horn. Tell him, don't do anything.
Yeah, don't do it. What are you,
don't
crazy?
Do anything, yeah.
Yeah. Alabama, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida State, Miami. I mean, you're talking about important districts.
Oh, the whole SEC. The whole southeastern United States.
Telling their representatives, don't do this.
Don't do this.
This is bad for your fan base. It's bad for our fan base.
Bad
and what's
for your
bad for our fan base is bad for you.
Yeah, right.
It is. But anyways,
Meanwhile, Utah's calling John Curtis and saying, regulate this madness.
Yeah, we've got red tape. We've got red tape for you.
This is crazy.
Yep.
Stay tuned. We'll get to the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Now, every team has been assigned a Heisman contender. Here's the dirty secret about BYU. Its best offensive player barely got to play last season. LJ Martin has serious ability when healthy. Is Aaron Roderick comfortable enough having a guy who will carry the ball 23 times? And I love this pick because that means that BYU will be centered around the run first, and then everything else can come from that, and I think that's where they're going to have a ton of success. The best thing that can happen to Jake Retzlaff's career
100%
is LJ Martin.
Yep.
Not just being healthy, but the run game being healthy, and the run game getting 5.5 per. That'd be amazing.
Your first best friend is a tight end, but another best friend is that running back, because if he's doing his thing, it makes things a lot easier for you. It's a lot easier to find guys open because defenses are keying on the run. So that would be very important for BYU.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I had no idea that Christian majored in French poetry at SUU.
Neither did I. I didn't know they had that. One of the leading schools in the country.
Well,
Amazing.
it's artsy.
Yes,
It's amazing. It's time for the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials, J. Brooks Jewelers. In all seriousness, SUU does have like one of the best theater departments in the country, right? Isn't they really infamous for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that where they hold the Shakespeare Festival?
Shakespeare Festival. Yeah.
So shout out to the T-Birds down there in Cedar City, a fine town. All right, where are we starting today, Christian?
Number 1, the Thunder, they take game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
I definitely got to shoot more. I only took 13 shots, but I'll say probably just get off the ball a little more, play without the ball. I think that'll be the answer, because playing on the ball, they're just going to double and sit in the gaps all day. So got to go watch some film and pick it apart. We'll figure it out.
I love Anthony Edwards.
I love that comment right there.
What he said for so many players is so diametrically opposed, and he's exactly right. He said, I need to shoot more, and then what did he say? I need to get off the ball.
Yeah.
How do you get shots? Get off the ball, and it will come back to you.
Yep.
Because the Thunder are going to attack whoever has the ball. They're trying to force a ton of turnovers, so they're going to be aggressive.
Especially him.
So get off the ball and get it back for a spot-up shot, for a catch and shoot, to attack a closeout. It's just like, oh, that's why that guy's a superstar.
Yep.
Like, the athletic gifts are stupid. We know it. Like, they're awesome. He's become a very good and prolific three-point shooter. He's a good defensive player. Him getting that is what has turned him into a star.
If Donovan Mitchell wants more shots, he just takes more pull-ups.
Right, exactly right. Donovan's like, you know what? I should dribble more.
The answer is dribbling more. Yes. That's Luka Doncic. That's the same
so
thing.
many players.
Well, the answer is I've got to dribble it more, obviously.
Yeah.
These bozos out here can't do it. I got to do it.
And it seems simple, but it's your instincts that you've been trained your entire life, that I'm the best player on the team, so I'm going to dribble and get to my shot. So I love hearing that from Ant.
I'm not going to call Anthony Edwards and his noisy personal life well-adjusted, but that was a well-adjusted basketball take right there. That was a very mature, non-star-like basketball take.
But at the same time, there's a reason Julius Randle, who had absolutely torched the Thunder all first half, also finished with 13 shots. And Ant finished with 13 shots. And the leading field, you have the box score.
Yeah, I do.
Who
I'm
took the
looking
most
at it.
shots for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Your guy, Dante DiVincenzo.
And right around him, Naz Reid took 11 and Nickeil Alexander-Walker took 11, those are good players. That's a great bench unit. Every team in the NBA would kill to have that bench unit. However, when Naz Reid shoots 1 of 11, Dante DiVincenzo shoots 3 of 14, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker shoots 3 of 11 for a combined 7 of 36.
Forget about the 7 for a second. If you're Dagnall, is it Dagnall or Dagnall? Because I keep hearing both too.
Yeah.
But Dagnall, if he's looking at that box, and what was that? The second number
36 field goal attempts.
That's a win for him.
That's a huge win.
That's a huge win for him.
Yeah.
Because every shot that they take is a shot that Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, which, of course, is your point, do not take.
Julius Randle shot 70% from the floor, 69% from the floor, 9 of 13. So, yeah, crank that up to 20. And even if he drops off to, 60%, that's a hell of a night.
Yep.
That's a guy who's going to give you 40 points in this game if he takes 20 shots. He could only take 13. And that's why the Thunder are so good. You would think, balanced box score, really cool. Nope.
No.
Not the playoffs. I don't need Mike Conley taking 8 shots in a game.
Not against this Thunder team, certainly. Does Rudolph have a role in this series? Because, he only played 21 minutes last night, so Chris Finch might not think he has a role in this series.
1 of 3, 2 points, 1 steal, 1 assist, 3 rebounds, 1 block. That's
not impactful. But 21 minutes is really the story. That's Tony Bradley minutes.
Fewer minutes than Mike Conley, who is borderline an unplayable basketball player.
So, I don't know. Is this a can't play Cantor situation? Like can't play Rudy?
I think they're probably going to go a lot with Naz Reid. As we saw, 27 minutes, and then Julius Randle probably at the 5. Jaden McDaniels at the 4. And that's really hard because now you're playing into the Thunder's hand. The reason we talked about it was kind of the big debate. Would the Timberwolves continue to look good against a team that now can actually match their size? The Warriors couldn't because the Warriors are tiny and the Lakers don't have anyone in the front court. So, the Timberwolves just ran roughshod over them.
And didn't play the one guy they do have.
Right. Exactly right. Benched him as much as they could.
They didn't play him in the last game, I think, right?
Yeah. There were games he was getting 4 minutes.
I think he got a DNP.
So, we're talking about Jackson Hayes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now the Minnesota Timberwolves' first adjustment was like, how do we play small? And I'm just like, that's
a bad sign.
It was just a little too textbook from the Thunder. The Thunder didn't play well in the first half. They were down 4, I think, at the break, which was a bad sign for the Timberwolves that they had played so much better than the Thunder and only had a 4-point lead. And then it was just classic OKC, just forcing turnovers, tons of points off turnovers. We talked about that a lot. Julius Randle had 5, Anthony Edwards had 4, Naz Reid had 3. I don't have the advanced box score up here. I could pull it up, but you just can't give up points off turnovers to this team.
Man, the reason if Rudy could run over players and actually dunk the ball, he would be so much better. The reason that Shaq doesn't like Rudy, I think Shaq takes it to the extreme.
Of course.
And I don't buy some of his arguments, but the fundamental of it is true. You can't be a more dominant offensive player. It limits you. You can't play. And if Rudy could run somebody over and dunk, then all of a sudden Oklahoma City's on the back foot. And they're the ones that have to make adjustments. Instead of, today Ben Anderson's jumping on the air talking about, Minnesota's going small. Instead of totally adjusting everything that they do, Oklahoma City would be like, oh man, Hartenstein's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
We only got one guy. We're in real trouble.
And look, it's even the counter to that, which is, Jokic isn't dunking on anybody. But if you put a small on him, and he struggled with Caruso did a hell of a job, he's still putting up 25 points and 14 assists.
Yeah.
He's still going to have a counter to what you put on him. And that's the problem is Rudy doesn't even have, the next thing.
Or a thing.
Yeah, a thing. Right. If he's not catching lobs, a little bit of, short roll passing to the corners, he's just not giving you
That's
much.
what the league figured out after Rudy set the dunks record. They're like, well, why are we not dropping the big?
Yeah.
Let's just drop the big.
Over and over and over.
And then all of a sudden that play was gone. Do you remember that? That next year?
Mm-hmm.
Gone.
Yeah. Because it was, 200 plus dunks, whatever. It was way more than that. Whatever his dunks record was. It was crazy. And then, it just almost disappeared overnight.
It's kind of funny how dumb coaches are game to game. But when they can take a look at it, all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, well, we should just drop the big.
31 points off turnovers for the Thunder, only 10 for the Timberwolves, 21 points in what ended up being a 26-point game. There's your difference right there. And then another huge red flag again because Minnesota's big. Points in the paint, OKC 54, Minnesota 20. 34 points in the paint difference there. So that was the difference.
All right, what's next?
Number 2, yesterday the NBA released their all-rookie teams. No Jazz representation.
Isaiah Collier missed out by 1 point, up being the second team. He was 11th of the 10-man voting, right behind Bob Carrington with the Washington Wizards. And actually, Flip finished 12th, but the gap between even 11 and 12, where Isaiah Collier was to where Kyle Filipowski was like 40 points. And I think Isaiah Collier, I could pull it up, finished with like 59 points and needed 60 or 61 to get there.
Collier had, I believe it was 52, and Flip had 19.
Yeah, it was a huge gap. It was a big gap between, making it or not making it. The good news, the all-rookie team literally means nothing.
No, nothing. Doesn't even mean that they're the best rookies, honestly.
There's no contractual addition by making all-rookie team. Yeah, it doesn't actually mean anything.
It's no guarantee you're going to make it at all.
No, absolutely right. I mean, Keontae George was on it, and Keontae George is a huge question mark.
Trey Burke was on it.
Right.
Michael Carter-Williams was the dang rookie of the year. It doesn't mean anything. I think Flip showed a ton of potential. If he figures out where he's going to be effective defensively, he could have a potential to be really good. If Isaiah Collier learns to shoot, he has the potential to be really good because he can do everything else. But the problem is both those factors are huge.
We're in heavy draft season, and you're exactly right. So it's always hard to know what to expect because you just attach so much expectations for the draft. The truth is, I bet if you were to go back, if you were to get a top 10 player from every draft class every year, your team would be pretty stacked. Just a top 10 contributor every year. So the goal for the Jazz, even though they did have the number 9 overall pick in Cody Williams, and then you had the 29th overall pick in Isaiah Collier and the 32nd overall pick in Kyle Filipowski, if one of those guys becomes a top 10 player from the draft class, you probably did well.
Yeah.
You probably exceeded expectations. And by the way, that still applies this year with the 5th overall pick and the 21st overall pick. And I know you want to get the All-Star. I know you want to get a top 10 player in the league. You're thrilled if you get a top 5 player from your draft class.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Top 10 is very passable.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So we'll see if either Kyle Filipowski or Isaiah Collier get there. And then, I haven't totally given up on Cody Williams, certainly. I'm curious to see what his second year looks like.
Sounds like you've given up on Keontae George.
I'll be curious if he's on the roster next year.
Wow, they're going to cut him?
I think they trade him. I don't think they're going to cut him.
They're going to Rajah Bell him? Just tell him to stay home?
That would be tough. He would have to do something crazy.
Yeah, like throw down with Ty Corbin?
Yep, in the locker room.
All right, what's next?
Number 3, Pacers at Knicks tonight for the start of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Funny, one of these teams is going to be in the finals.
Oh, I love it.
I'm with you.
I love it. And the East is so terrible. It is almost appropriate that probably average team out of nowhere makes it to the finals.
So, we are in the parody era of the NBA right now, which is cool. It's fun, and you get all these different teams and fan bases get involved. I got a response yesterday. After the Jazz players missed the all-rookie team, I was a little bit surprised. And a guy on Twitter responded to my tweet of me saying surprise. He said, "The karma for an obvious tank is real. It will be a long while before basketball Buddha blesses the Jazz with anything noteworthy." And he kind of went on and said, this is what you get for tanking. This is karma. The Jazz overachieved forever with the Millers, and now they've turned their back on that. And was mad at Ryan Smith and mad at Danny Ainge. And it just got me spinning a little bit, thinking how hard is it to do what Indiana and the Knicks are doing right now? Because the reasoning behind why the Jazz are where they are today is Ryan Smith believed you had to break it down to the foundation to rebuild it to exceed that reputation of always overachieving but never winning a title. Ryan doesn't want that, I don't think. He doesn't want to be a team that just overachieves and, punches above its weight but never wins a title. I think Ryan really wants a title. So the Knicks or the Pacers, good for them. One of them is going to make the finals and kind of have a chance to win a title, though I think they might get swept against whoever comes out of the West. How hard is it to get to where the Pacers are or where the Knicks are right now, and is that good enough if you're the team who doesn't even make the finals?
To say it's not hard would certainly be selling it short. Because
I agree.
All this stuff is not hard. But all this stuff is hard. It's hard to build teams. It's hard to identify talent. It's hard to play the game. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of moving parts to it all. None of it's easy. But to get to a team that can get to the second round in the playoffs, I don't think is that hard.
I'm with you.
If the current Jazz roster, if they flipped for some young players for a couple of vets and Lowry, depending on the positions, you can get to the second round of the playoffs. Now, in the West, it's way harder than the East. But for the sake of our conversation here, I don't think it's actually that hard. I think Danny Ainge could probably pull that off tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, but I think you get my point.
I think you could guarantee a second-round playoff berth in the next 5 years. If you said all the assets, all the trades.
Oh, they could make the playoffs next year if they wanted to.
And I'm saying second round of the playoffs, you could guarantee yourself getting there in 5 years.
Sure.
If you wanted to cash in all your chips and just say, like, that's the goal.
Yeah.
The question is, like, why would that be the goal?
Exactly. No, exactly. The Jazz maxed out under Donovan and Rudy and got to the second round. It didn't work. And then they didn't have any more resources to, as Dwayne Wade put it, add a second gear. They just they couldn't do it. They didn't have flexibility in the rules. Mm-hmm. And so they got there. And the hard part is drafting Donovan and Rudy. That's why I'm saying none of this stuff is easy. But then it's you get Donovan and Rudy, you're going to the second round, right? What do you do around it to get better? And what the Jazz did didn't work, and then they didn't have any resources left, and that was it. But if you get a couple of players, and I think Lowry is a player. Now, whether he's on the team or not,
sure,
I don't know. But if they were able to add...
You've got a player of his value. You have an asset of that value.
You put a couple of really good starting level vets with Lowry, and you're making the playoffs.
Well, I mean...
You add another player, and then you're into the second round. Like, you can do that, but you have to spend the resources, and then you better spend the right ones, or that's where you're going, right? Like, the Knicks can't make another move, basically.
Right.
With their salaries and their books and everything looking the way that it is, they can't do anything else. So this team has to be good enough to win a title. I don't really think it is. Maybe they fluke their way to a title. I guess it's possible. But where do they go from here?
Yeah. It's a little bit like choosing a profession or a career pathway and being like, well, I'm going to go to this trade specifically. Well, that trade you're going into probably only has so much runway. Like, now some of them, it's forever.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be in school for 10 years and you're going to spend $250,000 on school, if not more. But ideally, your earning potential is super high. But if you're going to say, well, I'm just going to do this, maybe your earning potential isn't that high, but you can get there quickly. But you just know the finish line is not that far down the road.
What you're describing is, I had a lot of people in my personal life that got trapped by this. The people who work in restaurants and then can't get out of the cycle because the money that they're making is really good, and it's a lot better than it would be working at Target and going to college. Yes. Instead, I'm a full-time bartender, whatever, where you're making pretty good money, but you're never going to make $1 million unless you...
Right. The bartenders I knew when I was in my early 20s that were making $60,000 a year when everyone else was making $20 felt like, my goodness, that's the real deal. And then now they're still making $65,000 a year.
Yeah. And maybe they love it and whatever. I'm not judging.
No, that's actually the whole point, is what is good enough. Would Jazz fans just be satisfied with that? Just a second-round team, that's their ceiling? Maybe you scrape the conference finals, but there's no pathway to winning a championship. You're never going to be that roster. You're not going to have that upside. Is that good enough? Because the response I got from this fan yesterday on Twitter was basically implying that, what the Millers did was successful. And I think you now have a guy in Ryan Smith who his pathway personally in his life has led to untapped wealth, unstoppable. He's going to continue to double his net worth probably every 5 or 6 years. Ryan's going to be a super billionaire by the time this is all said and done. And he's already got a ton of money. And I think he's treating his basketball team the same way. But I get why that's really hard to do and hard to be a fan of if you want to just see the $60,000 bartender success rate early on. And I don't blame you for that. Your job as a fan. You just want to have fun and watch the games. I totally think that's acceptable.
All right, stay tuned. More Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Kurt Heelan from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com.
Ultimately, if you're in a market this size, you need a break. And this lottery did not give it to you. And it hasn't under this new system. I mean, look, Detroit turned it around this year because they'd gotten the number one a few years back with Cade, and they made some smart moves around him. But this is the third straight year the team with the worst record has fallen to fifth. The league has to reconsider how they're doing this lottery. I get that this was a reaction to the tanking of the 76ers and the process. But if the team that's got the worst record keeps landing this deep, it's not okay. They need to do something to give these teams like Utah that are not perpetually trying to lose and give them a chance.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is Wednesday. That means a couple of things. We've got What You Got Wednesday at 11:30, and it's Win Ticket Wednesday. So caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We're going to hook you up with a pair of tickets to Judas Priest and Alice Cooper live at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on October the 2nd. We may have an update to the Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson story, but I haven't reviewed it thoroughly enough to really...
Okay.
I think. But there could be a segment here. Okay. There's some conflict with some other pageant contestants, apparently at a Christmas event. I don't know. I gotta look through it.
Okay.
What a wild thing. Those two crazy kids gonna have a great life together.
I read more into getting the Hard Knocks essentially shut down because she wanted ownership of it. Because while the NFL Films, is that what it's called, was negotiating with UNC and whoever to get this done, and she decided she stepped in and needed part ownership of it. She was also negotiating with a different company entirely to do the exact same thing, and they didn't respond. So she actually had a little bit of leverage. Because she could say, well, they're going to give me ownership and you're not.
This just hit me. The problem here is that he's dating or maybe engaged to a PR person. And you know who are the worst people on the planet? PR people. God, all they do is lie and spin and do this kind of crap.
They are good spinners.
So
Spinning is the right word.
He's hitched his wagon to a PR person who is power hungry and now in control.
Yeah.
This was all predictable. As soon as I saw PR in her bio, should have been like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
But she's the shark PR, and there are kinds of There's brands of PR people, right? There's the real helpful one. There's the one who wants to get their brand out there, going to get you involved in as much as possible. And then, yes, there's the sharks, and she's a shark.
Listen, I do think that certain professions attract certain personality types. I absolutely buy into that. Teaching, if you're a teacher, it attracts a certain personality type. We were talking about a good teacher right before we jumped on. Sports radio attracts just psychopaths. I mean, just the craziest people you've ever met in your life. I do think the PR profession attracts a certain personality type.
Yeah.
And I think she kind of fits it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're exactly right. What am I going to get?
Because all PR people think that they can control the message and what everybody does and says. And actually, if you read, go back and read the email that she released in reaction to the CBS News thing, and it's all about they're controlling the message. She's trying to has this psychopathic almost, I can control everything. I can control what everybody thinks, and I can control this this withered old man.
Yeah, right.
That's the Hard Knocks thing. She wanted complete control over it all. She's a PR person.
Control over every interview.
You don't get the real story, which by the way is supposed to be the appeal of a show like Hard Knocks.
Yes.
You don't get the story. You get what I say the story is.
Yeah.
Like that whole CBS News debacle was all about her trying to keep the interview focused on his football and the book.
Yeah.
That's why she kept interrupting those questions. She goes, no, we're not talking about that. Everybody thought are they covering a secret in their personal life? No, she's a crazy PR person who's trying to sell books.
Yeah. She wants her cake and to eat it too. Yeah. She wants to be with Bill Belichick, and I think the fame that comes with it, but she also wants to make sure she edits the fame so you only see what she wants you to see, and that's truly not possible. And he's been famous so long before her that I don't think it's crazy to say at all. I'm sure she knows him better than most people do because, she hangs out with him. But, do we think this 24-year-old has a real sense of, what everybody's formed opinion was of Bill Belichick when he won his first championship with the Patriots 20 years ago?
Uh-huh.
That's baked into our culture. He's a cultural figure, but was winning when she was 4 years old, which, Bill, really creepy. But she was a baby when you became world famous. And, you were famous before that because he'd won elsewhere, won with the Giants, etc. But by the time he was like the face of a winning franchise, that's where his identity is baked into, and we claim him now. Like, he's a part of us, the culture. She's now trying to, like, re-edit that, and that's not possible to do.
You ever have, like, reactions to people who tell you what they do? Like, hey, Christian, pretend you're a neurosurgeon for a second, all right? Hey, sir, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living?
Hey, I'm a neurosurgeon.
How interesting. Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Could you tell me more about that and your interesting work?
Oh, yeah. I look at neuros.
I do surgery on neuros.
Okay, now pretend you're a PR person. Okay. Oh, hi, Christian, or hi, sir. Nice to meet you. What do you do for a living?
Hello, Mr. Scott. I am a PR person.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go over there.
Yeah, I've meant to pick up some food.
I got something. I got some.
My full drink is empty.
What's that, dear?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Stay up to date with everything Utah Jazz related with the new Jazz Notes newsletter. Get draft updates, analysis, and be the first to know about every off-season move. Visit KSLSports.com to sign up for the Jazz Notes newsletter. Want to get the latest info on Utah's newest sports franchise? Sign up for the Utah Mammoth newsletter. Get exclusive analysis, plus the latest news and notes on the Utah Mammoth. Sign up today at KSLSports.com for the Utah Mammoth newsletter. The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We already spent time on Belichick in the last segment, so we don't need to. I did investigate during the break the incident. It was at a Nantucket Christmas party, and Bill's ex-girlfriend really flipped out that his current girlfriend was there. It was one of those kind of stories.
You need to watch Secret Lives. I
know.
You need to. That's what the whole show is.
I love this
At
stuff.
a much crappier level, much less elite level, with all due respect to the good people of Draper and Provo and wherever they're all living.
Can I tell you this before we leave it alone? I would never have predicted that, like, the Nantucket scene and dating. His ex-girlfriend apparently is some socialite who's actually involved in the pageant world, which is randomly part of the story. I would never have thought that was a priority of Bill Belichick. You know what I mean? If you were saying in 2005, what's this guy's priorities? It's like, well, I bet football and his easy chair. You know what I'm like? He seemed like a boring, like,
Everyone
that
likes
wouldn't be his priorities.
Everyone likes
you know
to
what
rub
I mean?
elbows. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Yeah.
Have your ex-girlfriend and your current girlfriend throwing down on the dance floor of the Nantucket Christmas party? Wow. That is next level. He's on one of these reality shows in real life.
Bill is?
Yeah.
His real life is,
dating
yes.
Jen Shaw.
Yes. His actual life right now is crazier than we're even seeing.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
For that guy.
Yes.
The
That's what I'm saying.
The
That guy.
To be like, yes, and behind the scenes, he's all drama.
I have a funny off-the-air story that, I better keep it off the air. Never mind. But it's never the person you think.
Usually it's the opposite.
It's never the person you think.
Yeah, a lot of the best people are the worst. A lot of the worst people are the best.
Yeah. Right. Or have different priorities, certainly, than you would just assume.
Yep.
Boring old man apparently is catfight Nantucket social guy.
It's really not that surprising if you think about it.
But that was so not the image he put out there.
Right,
but
right.
That's exactly the point.
When you attach the name Bill Belichick, then it's surprising. But then when you phrase it the way Jake just said, then it's like, huh.
Yeah.
Well, I never thought some guy would be dirty dancing on Urban Meyer's leg while he was at Cincinnati Bar, but I thought he and Shell Bell were very happy.
Can't keep your hand out of the cookie jar. Can you imagine? That's the underlying story with everything on the planet, but these two guys specifically, right? And I'm not accusing Urban of having the same shenanigans going on in his life as Bill Belichick, but there's a common thread for what these guys are lusting after.
Can you imagine what a self-centered egomaniac you'd have to be to even consider, like, I'm sending my team home on the plane. I'm going to stay here to get drunk in a Cincinnati bar and flirt with some floozy. Can I say that on the air?
I don't know anything about the woman, so maybe she's
she
a very
might
nice...
be a very nice young woman.
Yeah, maybe
Coach,
she's a neurosurgeon.
Coach, you're the coach of the team. You're not going to be with the team?
No.
No. Have you seen the bar at the Cincinnati Chili's? It's incredible.
Somebody was howling at me during the game and told me where to meet him. 7 p.m. at the Cincinnati Chili's. I've got an Uber. I had my shirt pressed.
Plane leaves at 7.
I'm going to be there.
I hear their house music is incredible. Hilarious. All right. So Coach is behaving badly. Maybe we come up with a new segment.
Coach is behaving badly?
Coach is behaving badly.
I like that.
Some are more predictable than others. If you would have told me that Rick Pitino would have an affair in the back of an Italian restaurant, I would have said, yeah, I probably believe that.
But you know what? To our point, Jerry Sloan probably scared every single person who didn't know Jerry Sloan. And then, like you said, he's probably one of the sweetest people of all time.
That's totally
and that
true.
doesn't mean Jerry didn't have rough edges. Obviously, he did.
Yeah, he's an old school coach, sure.
But, Jerry was there was some real authenticity there. Some real guy there. Like a good man.
Right.
There's a lot of that there. Whereas a lot of the guys that come in and try and be buttoned up and sharp and clever, you get behind the scenes and they're all Rick Pitino.
Oh my gosh, would you trust Will Wade for a second?
Right, exactly right. Oh, I mean, I've talked to so many people coming through Big 12 Media Day and Pac-12 Media Day where when I first met them, the first time at Pac-12 Media Day was like, wow, this guy's great. And then you just you run through the cycle a couple of times and you hear all the things they get fired for and you can just pick them out now when they come through. You just know who's lying, you know who's a dirtbag, you know who the bad guys are.
Wasn't that, I think that was a Rick Majerus line, right? Where I had to take a shower after shaking his hand. I was so slimy I had to take a shower after shaking his hand.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
There is.
And there's a lot of pretend to be not that, even though you are that.
A la Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Because there's so much money and you are so elite and people seek you out and want to be around you that you can abuse that power.
Again, personality types are attracted to jobs. And coaching is probably a funny one because you probably get a lot of the Will Wades, I'm going to knife my way to the top. But you probably get a lot of I think maybe the best example that I know or have at least been somewhat close to personally is probably like a Lavelle Edwards. He really, it was important for him to affect young people's lives. Mm-hmm. That was a priority in his life. I bet and that's so opposite ends of the spectrum. You know what I mean?
That's a common theme throughout, even the dirtbags.
Yep.
It's rewarding. It's got to feel good.
Yeah.
Now, some people turn that into a God complex.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of that.
And then they think that, the problem is that God complex leaks off the field.
Speaking of that, didn't Michael Malone just throw his former players under the bus?
Yeah, Michael Malone, who...
If we want to make a transition.
...has the ultimate God complex, and it cost him his job because he thought he was smarter than the front office and ownership, etc., and everybody got thrown out. Michael Malone did cause some controversy last night.
OKC won a thrilling Game 7 in front of the best fans in the NBA. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he showed why he's the MVP.
First of all, they had him with a mic, right? He wasn't in a studio. He was
with a mic on the court.
He was doing a sideline hit, which is very funny for a guy who was winning a title 2 years ago.
2 months ago, he was coaching.
Yeah, 2 months ago, he was coaching. But yeah, people thought he was throwing a little bit of shade at his team.
Okay, listen. Former coach, team. He was. That is shade at his former team. Not people think that is. Listen, coaches, when they go into the media, never say anything ever.
Correct. If you didn't hear it, because I know that quality wasn't amazing, what he said was, Oklahoma City has the best fans in the NBA, and that Shai is the MVP. Well, obviously, everyone in Denver is going to say, excuse me?
Yes.
We're the best fans. And then Jokic is going to say, excuse me? I've won 3 MVPs and I'm coming off my best year, and you were the coach. Yeah.
This year.
6 weeks ago.
Earlier this year, he had a quote saying, if you don't think Jokic is the MVP, then you don't know blank.
That 100% is shade at his former team. And you know what's sad about it? It's shade at the fans and the players. You could be mad at the franchise. Michael Malone probably thinks he got a raw deal from Denver, and he might have. But that's the front office and the ownership. That's not his player or the fans.
Right.
They did nothing but support.
Correct.
Good old Mike Malone. So why are you throwing shade at them? And listen, if a normal coach doing analysis on those two subjects, right? All he had to say was, wow, this is a special atmosphere, and man, Shea is an elite player.
That's why he's in the MVP race.
That's why he's in the. That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
But for him to go, this is the best environment in the NBA, and Shea is the MVP. Absolutely throwing Jokic and the fans right under the bus, which makes me also kind of curious. Maybe Jokic.
Well, look,
maybe Jokic endorsed the change.
They
you know
don't
what I'm
fire
getting at?
Mike Malone if Nikola Jokic says he's sticking around.
Right. So he's taking shots at a guy he probably thought didn't have his back.
And to your point, like I'm not going to pretend these guys are perfect by any means, but when we're talking about common themes through coaches, they are pretty surgical with their words, right?
There's a code. There's the coach's code.
Yes, they know how to not make that mistake. They know how to be careful with what they say. They know how to not say anything. They make a whole career out of not saying anything. And Michael Malone is more willing to talk than some other coaches, but it really came out more and more over the last few years as he won more and was protected by having these great players and winning a title. So yes, to do that is on purpose.
Is on purpose.
He didn't accidentally say something.
And this is the problem, because it drives me nuts that coaches don't say anything. You can have a take, and people will run with it and think and blow it way out of proportion. And I kind of get why they don't, because they don't want to be controversial, because they want to get hired again. So I guess I kind of understand where the code comes from. I wish they wouldn't adhere to it all the time, because we want to hear what they really think. But that rarely happens. And in this case, he's giving you two scorching hot takes, which is out of the norm. And they are both direct shots at the place he just left. That's petty, that's personal, and that is God complex.
And this was his first game, too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He was waiting,
Yeah.
So there's a funny thing in radio, and it's all radio, but it's sports radio specifically. Like, if you listen to somebody's first show, you will know every sports take they've been sitting on for the last 15 years that they could not wait to get out. They have been waiting to get on the microphone and get that thing on the air because they believe it, and they just could not wait to spill the beans. Michael Malone could not wait to take these shots at Denver, the fan base, the organization, his former player that, by the way, has made him, what do we think, $20 million?
Probably made him a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. In Nikola Jokic. So to come out and take those shots is weird. But Michael Malone's a weird guy. Hence, Michael, not Mike.
Man, did he disappear during the pandemic and come back with a full head of hair? Remember that? Bald as a cue ball. Pandemic hits. Bubble.
Yeah.
Mike Malone's back. Beautiful head of hair.
Looks great.
Who's your barber?
We'll see where he pops up. It doesn't sound like he's in the running for the Phoenix job, nor would that be a good job to take. But hey, he'll get another job. I'll be curious where he goes.
I might not hire him for those comments alone, honestly. And that's why coaches don't say anything.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. Yeah. For maybe to, not to our benefit, certainly. It'd be fun if every coach had something crazy we could talk about. How easy our show would be if Will Hardy said something controversial every single day.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be great. But they're smart enough to not do that. They're calculated. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Coaches are calculated. They don't do that unless it's calculated.
Yeah.
Michael Malone knew what he was doing. This idea that he was just nervous on the air. It's like he's on TV all the time, all day.
So if I'm interviewing Mike, I'll ask him, hey, what happens if I don't do it your way? Are you going right to ESPN and you're going to start throwing shots?
Right.
Because I'm not going to hire you if that's the case. Because you're not Frank Beamer and you don't get to act like the good Lord herself.
Yep. Yeah.
And if I say, oh, no, we're not going to spend that money, what are you going to do then? You're going to usurp my own franchise from me? Yeah, no thanks.
Or you're going to speak to the media, which is a huge red flag.
Hard pass.
Which is, by the way, why the Van Gundys don't have head coaching jobs. Because they like to speak to the media. That was part of their issue.
Jeff would never criticize another coach, but he did get more critical than usual in his analysis, which is why I liked Jeff Van Gundy on ESPN.
I mean, Stan's problem was when he was the active head coach, he would air all of his grievances through the media.
Oh, that's how we knew about all the Dwight Howard stuff.
That's how you knew everything.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So when you're Michael Malone and now all of a sudden you're recognizing that the media is your tool to take shots at people, are you going to do that when you're actually running my team?
Right.
And he did it with, by the way, he did it with Calvin Booth. You know, it was not a secret that he and Calvin Booth didn't get along. In fact, we were at Peach Doors and Windows when that news came down that Michael Malone had been fired with 3 games left to go in the season. And I think my initial take before we saw the full fallout was, oh, Calvin Booth won this battle. Like, it was such a well-known thing that those two hated each other. I couldn't tell you who a lot of the general managers are in the NBA, and I do this for a living. Like, you know, I could tell you just the general 4 or 5 names of the guys who are kind of doing the everyday stuff. You know some of the owners, you know some of the presidents, you know some of the bigger names, but GMs are actually relatively anonymous. The fact that anyone knew who Denver's GM was a bad sign.
It depends on the GM, honestly.
It does,
I agree with you, but it depends on, this is really important. It depends on the dynamic within the franchise, which is really critical. R.C. Buford has never worked a day in his life.
Right.
Greg Popovich ran everything.
Right.
You talk to people behind the scenes. R.C. Buford was taking a nap in his office, and Greg Popovich did it all.
Yeah.
With the Jazz, Danny Ainge probably isn't taking a back seat to anybody, I'm guessing.
Right.
I'm guessing as the CEO, is certainly in the basketball area. He and certainly Justin, who I don't want to leave out of the convo, but Danny is a big established personality, legend, all that stuff. He's not coming in to take a nap in his office. You know what I mean?
Right.
Will Hardy is the coach.
Right.
But Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck are the general managers and CEO. Making those decisions. You know, that's not true. God, where's another? Do you know who Miami's GM is? That guy's really taking a nap in his office.
I have no idea. That was the best example.
It's Pat Riley and Spo who are doing everything.
Right. And there's somebody in there, and they have, like, Shane Battier has worked. Like, they've cycled through guys, but no, I don't know who, like, their number one decision maker is because their number one decision maker is Pat Riley. I don't know who their phone call guy is.
Quinn and the owner's son are running the show in Atlanta.
Hence Landry Fields being out.
Yeah.
And you know what? They haven't replaced him yet. Why? Because they don't need to. Because the job is relatively minor right now. And they're throwing out Masai Ujiri and all these names to come in and move into Atlanta. But, like, it's just not that big of a deal at this point. Because you're right. The owner's son and Quinn are doing the work.
My point is these dynamics are delicate and critically important.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like president, GM, you know, what we think is a traditional power structure. That's not necessarily how it works. Yeah. But, like, Quinn and Dennis had their thing.
Oh, I mean, it's funny you brought that up. The day after Dennis took a step back, but was essentially, you know, demoted, we got to talk to Quinn, and I asked Quinn, I was like, hey, you know, just, does this mean you have to, like, do a little bit more? Because I think it was during the offseason, it was, like, before the draft. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I asked Quinn, I was just like, hey, does this mean you have to, like, do more draft stuff? And he did I've got to spill the beans. Like, he was waiting to say something. He's like, I don't know how every front office works. They're all shaped differently. I don't know what that means. Like, I was like, all I asked you was, like, are you going to have to go to more workouts?
Workouts and stuff. Yeah.
And then on the next question, when somebody asked him, he stopped mid-question and came back to me because he realized he sounded like a psychopath because he jumped all over my question. Like, how am I supposed to know how every other team operates in the NBA? Now, he's right. Every team operates differently, and every relationship is different between the head coach and the GM. But Michael Malone's was notoriously bad.
Oh, and the owner, for that matter.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if Isaiah Thomas has the office next to the owner.
Hell, apparently
Zeke's
it wasn't
in charge.
Apparently it wasn't great with his best player, which might be the most important relationship there is.
Now that's a true God complex.
Yeah.
Where you think you're more important than the other team or than your best player.
A lot of coaches have lost their jobs for that reason.
Yep. Phil Jackson never thought he was more important than his players. That might have been his secret sauce, honestly.
Pop has always been very good about thanking Tim Duncan for the Hall of Fame and all the championships. You know, do I suspect if Pop really had a problem, he thought he could have gotten Tim Duncan traded? There's probably a part of him that thought he could have, but he was too smart to ever get there, and good for him. Tim Duncan never tested that theory.
You know, I don't think Jerry Sloan ever thought he was more important than John and Carl, but Frank Layden actually, and I'm trying to remember his line exactly because he had the best line, and he's like, yeah, John and Carl were really important. They made us all rich.
Yep.
That his line, the tagline, I can't remember what came first, but the tagline was, they made us all rich.
Yep.
And that's true.
Yep.
And that sounds like kind of a, well, what'd you do, Frank, kind of thing. But like, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
Of course, absolutely, he's right.
And even Frank Layden had his issues with Adrian Dantley, where they had a bunch of this stuff and ended up trading AD. So
no, he was also smart enough not to trade AD until he had John and Carl and recognized there was something there because, that was your best player.
So those guys, those legendary coaches never thought that they were more important than their players, period, but certainly than their best players.
Yeah, right.
It's a reason because players are the most important, and the best players are the most important. There's a reason that Houston gave in to James Harden and would let him do whatever whatever he wanted on road trips. Right. Leave the next day because he wanted to go out and party.
Man, it's a little gross. And look, I love Frank Layden. I'm like a Frank Layden fan. He's one of the great characters in sports history, much less Utah history. But like, when you pull back that curtain, doesn't everything make more sense? Of like, why do you let James Harden go to the Glitter Club after games?
Yes,
why do you do all these things? It's actually not to win a championship.
No, it's because he's making you rich.
He's making you rich.
Yep.
He's making you rich. And you know what? Being rich is fun. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean?
It looks fun.
Yeah, it sure looks fun. It sure looks like it would be nice. So, yeah, go make your millions of dollars as a front office member somewhere because you're doing a good enough job because your team's in the playoffs every year and one guy's responsible for it.
Oh, best example currently, Nico Harrison.
Right.
That guy went from on his way out to he might have the job for the next 10 years.
Yep.
And it has zero to do with his actual performing of the job.
His ability to do his job.
They hit the lottery.
Yep.
They're going to get Cooper Flagg.
And he hit it both literally and figuratively. He keeps getting paid because he won the draft lottery. Now he wins the financial lottery as a result.
That guy is the luckiest guy on the planet, literally. I mean, calling Stephen Curry, he called him Stefan.
Yeah.
I actually looked back into it.
Seth?
No, it wasn't Seth. I thought, or we thought, I don't know.
He called his brother.
Seth. No, it called him, instead of Stephen, called him Stefan. Stefan Curry.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know the name of the guy you're trying to, like, that should have ended his career. He should be raking leaves for the parks department.
Right.
That bozo move alone should have finished that guy. Somehow he ended up on as a general manager for the Dallas Mavericks. Trades the franchise player in the middle of the night.
Yep.
Doesn't make the playoffs. The player he traded for immediately gets hurt.
Yep.
That guy's probably going to be in that job for the next 10 years because he
got a 1.8% chance of moving up.
And now he's going to get a franchise guy.
Yep. Life's good for the Harrisons.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Some people.
Unbelievable. Why can't I be that guy?
Must be nice.
Why can't I be that guy? Seriously.
By the way, for a young up-and-coming sports people, never say, why can't I be that guy? Because that is a sports death knell.
Yeah.
No, you're saying it at a funny time. You're talking simply about luck, not like, I should
not like
I should be the assistant coach. They really need my opinion.
No. I mean, like, sheer luck.
Sheer stupidity and luck.
Like Nico Harrison just found $100 on the sidewalk.
You don't think you're smarter than anybody. You just know Nico Harrison isn't either. And you're saying, why can't you be that lucky?
Why can't I be that? He didn't do anything. He lost Nike, the biggest client in the NBA, to Under Armour, who can barely manufacture shoes.
Right. And fell upwards. And then continues to do it.
Yep. How is that possible?
Yep.
I mean, Steph Curry basically said, I would rather play on these flimsy cardboard shoes
than Nike.
Because of you.
Because of one guy.
And that guy's the GM of the Mavericks now. And going to be for the foreseeable future.
Life's good.
Dang! Could you screw up that big at work and still somehow climb the ladder?
I've made some mistakes in my life.
But Ben, what would what would the equivalent be for Ben?
Yeah, like literally burning down the Triad Center.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Like you can't come to work anymore. Nobody can come here. They're like, well, we're gonna make you GM of Sacramento. We're sending you to Phoenix. You're running the show now. Okay?
Ben thought it was a good idea to dust the studio with a flamethrower. Thought that was really a solid plan.
What's his next job? He flies Chopper 5.
All right. That's funny. What you got Wednesday? Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is DJ and PK.
Former BYU coach Steve Cleveland.
I've not seen AJ play. As I watched that 90-minute practice, Wright is going to be the point guard on this team. But you probably have a difficult time telling AJ that he's not going to handle the ball. He was playing the point guard. He's not a selfish player. He's very selfless. He hits the open man. He's got such size and length. Watching him initially, I thought he looked a lot like Paul George, but he's even got a better body. It took Paul probably 2 years to get a body like AJ already has. So it's obvious that he's going to have an impact immediately. This team's going to be really good. Houston, Texas Tech, BYU, Arizona, Ohio State, those are going to be the same teams that are going to show up. I'm excited about it, man. I think it's going to be a really, really good year.
Catch DJ and PK mornings from 6 to 10 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What you got Wednesday? What's the deal? Jake's got rules, Ben's out to steal. Bozo takes their spinning around. Flush it down, flush it down.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Listen to Hanson Scotty coming up today. They'll have Kids on the Move in studio promoting the Hope in Motion Golf Invitational. Not just a golf tournament, it's a chance to drive real change for children with developmental disabilities in your community. All right, time for What You Got Wednesday. If you're new to the show, every Wednesday, Ben and I go head-to-head in 2 5-selection drafts, one sports-related, one not. Then we throw it out to the good folks for a vote. What happened last week, Christian?
Last week, Ben was real worried about his potential success, but he won both drafts. The first draft, Best Pacers and Cavaliers players, Ben won 68-32, and then Best Movies carried by an SNL actor.
I thought you'd
Ben
win that one.
won 66-34.
I have no idea.
I thought you'd win that one.
I did too.
So Jake goes first.
You never know. Never know. All right. What's our sports-related draft today, Christian?
For the sports draft today, instead of doing just 1 through 5, you guys are going to make a starting 5 out of the current players in the conference finals, both sides, West and East.
I like this one. I think this one is pretty challenging.
So 2 backcourt players, 2 forwards, and a big man. You know, big man is subjective.
Yeah, we get
now.
it.
Yeah.
We get it.
So it's going to go a little bit out of order.
So outside of Joe Ingles,
who you
is
taking?
there an automatic number 1?
Yeah, that's funny. The Knicks are so shallow. Like, I don't know who their 10th man is. He's got to be awful.
I don't think there's a automatic number 1. I think you can debate between 2, and I'm going to go with Shea.
He is going to be named MVP tonight.
I don't know if he's better than Ant, but he's had a better year. So
are you getting specific as to what guard position you're going to play Shea, or are you just taking 2 guards?
It's guards.
He's a point guard. That's where I'm going to put him. And you're right. There's 2 guys to take. I think you have to take Ant number 2, so I will take him, and yeah. I'm going to put him at shooting guard. But yeah.
Now, from there, it does get a touch more challenging now, doesn't it? I'm going to go with... I'll go with Halliburton.
He's a star.
So my backcourt's set.
Yeah. I think that's a smart move. I think that's fine. I think I'm going to go with the narrowest. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton rules. I love Tyrese Halliburton's game. He's really fun to watch. I can't wait for the series to start tonight. I'm going to go with what I think is the shallowest position. And I'm going to go with J-Dub kind of at the 3. I'm just going to go with Jalen Williams. He was excellent last night. He's kind of been up and down in the playoffs historically, including this year. But when he goes, so do the Thunder. And so I'm going to take Jalen Williams.
Man, see, here's the hard part is now I'm going to have to start taking players that I really...
Yeah, you don't like these players. That's why this is a funny draft.
I don't like any of these players. No, you're totally right. So Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay. Wow, I'm surprised you took Cat.
I don't want the other centers.
The centers actually are. I said the kind of the wing forward is the thinnest. No, the centers are
the centers
bad.
Yeah,
the centers are bad.
Yeah, Cat, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fine. The 4. He's just been unbelievable in these playoffs. I'm going to take Julius Randle. He's just been.
Yeah, I get it.
Like, if you were to do the 5 best players in the playoffs so far, Shea, Julius Randle's in that conversation. He's like right there. He's just been so good this year. It's been fun to watch.
All right, I got to take. Wait, you have 2 forwards already?
I have my 2 forwards. Your forwards are there, but I mean, that's what you're drafting.
So we're all,
I need a guard. I need a center. You need 2 forwards.
I'm going with my guy Pascal Siakam.
Okay. I was really debating taking him over Julius, and it just like regular season, I think I'm taking Pascal over Julius, but he's just been awesome.
He's been good. Yeah, I got
it. To our point earlier, like, could the Jazz build a roster to get back to the second round of the playoffs? Like, they could have traded for Pascal a year and a half ago if they wanted. Just had him. They could have.
Yeah.
They had all the pieces, all the draft picks, whatever you wanted to get him from Toronto.
And you can extend him. He had the salary. It all made sense. Yep.
And they did. That's what the Pacers did, and they've been to back-to-back conference finals partially as a result.
Pretty good move.
Yeah, smart move. All right. Yeah. I will take, because I think I need an actual true ball handler, I'll take Jalen Brunson.
I'm surprised. Well, he didn't. Oh, well, I'm not surprised he lasted this long because I picked 2 guards.
I knew you weren't, and I knew you weren't going to take Brunson, so I didn't need to waste a pick early there.
I already had to swallow the pill on Cat.
Right. A real cat in the wall. So I knew I'd get Brunson late. I probably, conceivably, I would have taken, Lou Dort or something at the 2, which would have been fun.
Dort.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you can't have Lou Dort. He's not a point guard, so...
All right. I guess I got to go with Chet.
As your 3?
Yeah.
Okay. I was maybe going to take him at the 5, so okay.
Chet's not a 5. I wouldn't have let you do that.
He's not really a 3 either.
He's a wing. Yeah, he is.
I mean, he's like a big forward, but he can play 3. Yeah, he can do it. You know, he's either playing with Hartenstein or he's playing with at center, but he also plays with J-Dub, and J-Dub will guard somebody bigger, and he's patrolling.
He's not a center.
Man, I'm taking the only guy. I guess I'll take Gobert.
That's the only way. I mean, you're not going to take Naz Reid. Gobert's better than Hartenstein. That's the whole reason I took Cat.
Here's the thing. Low-key, Miles Turner's awesome. The
Oh,
league
that's
has
a good
totally
point.
evolved into Miles Turner.
I
He's
do
also
like Miles
would be the
Turner.
only guy on this board other than Chet who's never made an All-Star team. So I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? Take the only non-All-Star. But we have 9 of our 10 are All-Star players, which is that's why these teams are as good as they are.
I was thinking of taking Bridges.
And OG Anunoby could easily be on this list.
Yeah.
OG's a little bit of an unsung hero with this Knicks team, but he's part of the big reason why they are able to compete the way they are.
And by the way, I should have made you clarify which Jalen Williams you took. So I am assuming
right.
That's the big.
I did J-A, putting him at the 3.
Yeah.
Now, only one of us is using a Thunder big at the 3. I could have, Jalen Williams, I think is Jaylin.
Okay.
J Will versus J-Dub. All right, recap.
Jake, you had the number 1 overall pick. You went Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Tyrese Halliburton at your guard spots. Then you put Chet Holmgren, Pascal Siakam, and Karl Anthony Towns for your bigs. Ben, you went Jalen Brunson and Anthony Edwards. Then you've got Jalen Williams, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert.
Chet might be more, and actually he got some of these comps coming out of Gonzaga. There might be more Andre Karolinko there than Victor Wembanyama.
Okay.
To your point of him being a 3, who's pretty skilled.
Right.
Can do a little bit of everything. I don't know if he's elite at any one thing.
I actually don't think Victor is a big either.
Yeah, he's probably a 3-4.
Yep.
As he moves forward. Yeah.
I know during his rookie season they tried that and it didn't work all that well and they moved him to the big. I actually think that's eventually where he ends up. Unless he wants to put on 50 pounds.
Yeah, which he doesn't.
I would doubt.
Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Draft.
That was a good draft.
Good teams.
What is our not sports related draft?
Non-sports today, we're going to do best Cheers and its spin-off characters.
So in the Cheers universe, including what, Cheers and Frasier, there's not another one we're forgetting about, right?
I don't know. Maybe, but nothing I cared about.
In honor of George Wendt passing away yesterday.
I didn't know he was. I don't even know what he died from.
Well, he was 77.
But he was 77.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. It's not that like something had to be explained, but
Is there an automatic number one pick?
I think so.
I do too. And it is Norm Peterson.
Oh, you're taking Norm.
I'm taking Norm.
Okay.
I think he was the best character in Cheers.
Norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other good characters in Cheers. Don't get me wrong, but he was the best character in Cheers.
Beloved. I mean,
hilarious, and he played particularly well by George Wendt.
Played very well, and I saw Bill Simmons made this point on Twitter yesterday, but it's like the final scene has two people in it, and Norm is one of them, and that's not an accident. Like Norm absolutely belongs there. Often the show started with him. You know, they would come in for their cold open, it would be Norm. And I will take the other guy who was in that final scene, and Sam Malone. I mean, Sam was a cool character, and Ted Danson has proven to be one of the great TV actors of all time.
Yeah, he was kind of annoying.
Yeah, that was his character. Right.
I'm going to go with Woody.
That's who I have third on my board, too. I was going to say, I bet we have pretty similar tastes.
Woody was hilarious. And not to give away further picks, but I always liked Woody better than Coach. Not that Coach wasn't funny, but I thought Woody was an upgrade.
I bet you there was a real delineation between fans of like the older fans liked Coach and then were a little turned off by Woody. And then the younger people who like it really snagged some people.
Yep.
It's funny. It's almost the exact same character, right? Just like
it is the exact same character.
Goof guy, except for one of them was at 75 and one of them was 25.
Well, they wrote that into the show, right? Didn't they say one of the reasons that they hired Woody is because he reminds me of Coach or whatever? But Woody.
All right. I will go with similar to you saying Norm. If you actually watch the show Frasier, the star of the show is Niles.
Yes.
Niles is so funny. He is such a good character. David Hyde Pierce, one of the all-time great TV performances as Niles, is so funny.
No, it's a solid pick. He was the funny part of that show. And a better character, I would agree, than old Frasier.
And Frasier's great. He's just kind of the engine. And all the pieces around him were actually not better, but Niles certainly was.
All right, I'll take Cliff. Can I really have Norm without Cliff? Cliff Clavin. You know what's funny about Cliff is that character is such a impactful character that people reference that character all the time. Like, not to go Cliff Clavin on you, Ben, but did you know the mating habits of the Australian mongoose? Yeah. Cliff.
And it's actually like, I don't know how many of our listeners have ever been in like bar culture, but like if you're talking about bar regulars, that guy absolutely
exists everywhere.
He's going to go talk to everyone. He's going to annoy everybody. He's just like the mail carrier. Like, with all due respect, I'm sure we have a ton of mail carriers who listen to our show. It's just like, it's like a very blue collar job. And then he goes to the bar and hangs out the whole time.
You can drink all the time on the job, apparently.
But he has like all these facts. He's a factoid guy.
Cliff Clavin.
Cliff Clavin. All right. I'm going to go with other comic relief here, and I'm going to go with Carla, who I thought was
Carla's great.
By far the best woman character of the shows.
I would agree.
Husband got killed, getting run over by a Zamboni.
Oh, I remember that.
Right.
Wow, I watched way too much of these shows. I've got one I'm saving for last. All right, I'll go with Frasier. Obviously, you know what? It's funny. They changed his character from what it was at Cheers to what it was in Frasier.
Not that there was no comic relief from him in Cheers, but he really was so much exposition to just like move the story forward. Like when they wanted to explain the story, they would basically have him come in and almost like narrate in a conversation to get to the next step. It's kind of interesting. It was a smart character to have, but Frasier, he's a clown.
And he started as a villain.
Right.
He started as like the stuffy guy nobody liked, and then evolved, and then obviously was totally different on Frasier.
Yeah, I'm going to bounce all my problems off of Frasier to explain the storyline of the episode. And then ended up being a very good character on the show Frasier, which is why it worked. All right, I'll just go according to my board, and I will go with Coach. We already talked about him because we talked about Woody.
I'm going to go with legit my favorite, which is going to give me no votes at all. But I think she was maybe not the funniest of the two shows, but close.
Okay.
Roz Doyle.
Roz was great.
His producer. And, it's a show
How do you
about
spell
radio.
Roz?
R-O-Z.
R-O-Z?
R-O-Z. Roz Doyle. And she was kind of the loose-moraled producer that was so funny.
Kind of a loser. Like, she lived with her mom, right?
Yeah.
At least a lot of her conversations were like her relationship with her mother. But was so funny.
So funny. Yeah. And the radio stuff was part of the funniest stuff on that show. Like, the interaction with callers and Roz and all that stuff was, like, really funny.
And a cause of contention between her and Frasier constantly.
Yeah.
Her trying to get him to do stuff.
Roz Doyle.
All right. And I will take... Can I take the dog? Can I take Frasier's dog? Like, he was absolutely a character.
That's
on
fine.
the show.
What was his...
Moose?
Eddie.
Eddie. Moose is the real dog. Eddie, the dog.
Eddie, the dog. Oh, I'm so glad you didn't take Diane. Maybe the worst character ever written for television.
Hate Diane. I'm Team Rebecca.
I'm Team Rebecca, too.
I thought, and you know what? I would have taken Daphne over both of them. Niall's girlfriend. Or wanted to be his girlfriend.
The other one I considered was Martin Crane because he was funny, too.
Marty was great.
The dad, he was funny.
But as I got older, I recognized, like, oh, that's just Frasier. Or that's just Kramer. Like, he's the Kramer character, right? Like he
the
plays
wild card.
some roles, but rarely is he, like, the reason the story is moving forward.
Right.
He just, come in, do some jokes, have a bit, take off.
All right, review.
Before we review, fun fact, there are 2 other spinoffs. The Tortellis and Wings.
Oh, Wings, of course.
Was Wings a spinoff of Cheers?
Yeah, who's the main character on it, though?
I don't think Wings was a spinoff of Cheers.
That's what Wikipedia says.
I wonder who the main character would have been. Someone will know.
Anyway.
And it must have been Carla, right? I mean, she's
For the
Italian.
Tortellis,
She's the Italian. So.
Well, Jake, you have the first pick. You had Norman Peterson, Woody Boyd, Cliff Clavin, Frasier Crane, and Roz Doyle. Ben, you went Sam Malone, Niles Crane, Carla Tortelli, Coach Ernie, and Eddie the dog.
Although not a spinoff, Wings takes place in the same universe as Cheers, and by extension is a spinoff.
Oh, man, I would have taken Antonio number 1.
So it's not like obvious characters crossing over.
How on earth are they in the same universe? How does that make any sense?
So is every show. I assume that Seinfeld and Cheers is in the same universe.
They must have had like a crossover
same
episode
producers.
or something.
Yeah.
Anybody we missed in your opinion, Christian?
Have you watched these shows at all?
No.
That's a generational divide of like
yesterday.
millennials. We caught the end of it.
Did we just alienate everybody with that draft?
No, because our listeners are older than Christian.
All right, review.
He just did.
I just did.
Oh, okay, we got it. Sorry. I don't know who won that one.
Well,
That's
who
close.
would you want to hang out with? I think it's yours. Norm, Woody, Cliff, Frasier, Roz. I mean, Sam was the cool one.
Niles may get you across the finish line.
You don't want to hang out with Niles,
No,
though.
but he's a funny
neurotic.
character. All right, stay tuned. Wrapping up the show next, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what are you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs! Cheap bangs!
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What's that?
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on their ways, talking sports. They got it made jokes and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my. basketball courts. They mainly engage in their thoughts. Kids got wisdom beyond his years.
Fine, Christian. Jeez.
But thank you, Christian. That's nice of you.
Good
to say,
heavens.
honestly.
This segment is brought to you by Peach Doors and Windows. Amazing home transformations begin with Peach, where 5-star reviews are the norm. Call them today for your free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255, Peach Doors and Windows. Have you ever noticed that Christian gets super mean when Lloyd's in the room over there? Do you think it's like he's trying to be...
Do you think it's a performance, or do you think Lloyd just like when he's around, everyone's in a bad mood and it comes out of Christian?
Is Lloyd transferring his negative vibes to Christian, or is Christian trying to like... show off for
right.
Lloyd?
Is it an act, or is Lloyd radioactive?
You know what? It's both, but it also boils down to he's a Raiders fan, and I'm a Broncos fan. We just naturally don't get along. So he walks in the room, and it's like, ugh.
Oh, my daughter! What did my daughter's teacher say today? My daughter wore a Raiders shirt to daycare. My parents.
Did she just come from the tattoo parlor?
No,
What is going on?
No. My parents have a condo in Vegas now, and so it got brought back as
Did your parents have her up all night drinking? What are you talking about?
But her teacher said something like, "Is she a biker?" Or said something like that.
She's like,
my 4-year-old, is she in a biker gang or
is
something?
she going to come out for the smoke break? Like, what's going on here?
Man, Lloyd, your team certainly has a rep.
Yeah, big time.
Do they have the most notable rep fan base in all of sports?
Cowboys.
No, I'm not saying the biggest one. The Cowboys don't have a rep.
Yeah, they do. It's a bunch of phony baloney, right?
It's our year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like the casuals.
But, I mean, people would say you can't go into the black hole or you're not going to survive.
No, I mean, to the point where the teacher was like, maybe you're right. Maybe it's the most specific. Maybe it's the most carved out reputation of like when a 4-year-old shows up to daycare, the thought is like, is this the rough kid? Like, this kid's tough now?
Yeah, right. Like, Miami Heat fans have the rep of leaving early, right? They're front runners. They're not. Yeah, right.
The Raiders, to your point, have the Jolly Roger. I mean, that's basically what their flag is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this teacher is not a sports fan. She's not a.
But it comes with a certain implication.
Like, she thinks I'm a worse parent today than she did yesterday.
Yes, without the understanding of who the Raiders are or why they've been that villain historically in the NFL. But truthfully, that became a cultural symbol.
Yeah, she really did. She looked at me like, what's wrong with you?
I mean, the White Sox, with their hat, certainly had a certain representation in the 90s.
I don't know if it was more than the
Raiders. But no, it's
rep.
not now. I mean, you see White Sox hats everywhere.
Yeah. All right. I mean, Yankees fans rep is like snooty, right?
Yeah,
but it's not like the Raiders.
Yeah,
right. All right, stay tuned. Hans and Scotty G are coming up next. Is our guy back, Lloyd? Is our guy Hans back?
I think he's at graduation.
Oh, he's at graduation. All right, so Scotty G coming up next. Stay tuned. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.